Welcome to this episode of The Garage with Dennis. We're here in beautiful Portland, Oregon to check out Protek Automotive and my friend Mike Cristopherson to give you a little bit of an insight into a modern day service and repair facility for European cars. If you want to, make sure and check out our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages at InTheGarageWithDennis.com. And don't forget, we want to make sure and thank our sponsors, Royal Purple, the performance oil that outperforms, and our friends at Craftsman. Make sure you go to Craftsman.com and become a Craftsman Club member. Let's get the show started right now.
My name is Michael Cristopherson. This is Protek Automotive. I'm the owner. We've been in business for 6 years now. I started in this business about 14 years ago, starting at a dealership, working as a lot attendant, doing all the grunt work, and I thought that this was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I went with, I kind of stuck with cars, just out of kind of almost, I don't want to say what I fell into, but I liked the import scene back in the mid to late 90s. Got into Hondas and Acuras, loved it, and it just progressed. I thought about going into other things, you know, into the tech industry like my father, into, it's what I've loved. I've just always had a love for the style and alterations that can be done to cars. So the mechanics made sense to me. And so when I started in this, I started in the Honda and Acura stuff, and I thought the European market looked better. The way the cars were built, the way mechanics in the industry told me that they were easier to work on, and that the technology was more advanced. So moving from the Japanese market, to the European was just another step for me. I went from the European dealership, the Japanese dealership to the European dealership. Went through all the training and just fell in love with the European mark, whether it be Acura, Audi, Volkswagen, BMW. I just loved the way they operate. Going through school, I enjoyed it. The passion and love for those cars is different than they are for the Japanese market. To a lot of owners, and it's not all of them, but to a lot of owners that come in for service work, it's just another car. To me, the cars are more than just something you drive around with. So, yeah, the thought process behind a lot of owners is they purchase a car and they have to go to that dealer for their service work because it's under warranty, or because it's such a high-tech car, a BMW and Audi, even some of the Hondas and Japanese marks. What people don't realize a lot of times is that a lot of technicians like myself start at the dealer. We go through a lot of factory training, and then we move away from them because of you know, certain issues or certain outlooks on the dealership or the way things work there. For me, I like dealing with customers, so I left the dealer to be able to interact more with customers and not look at an invoice and just see a part number, a customer number. We still go through the same training. We still go down to California, you know, go through factory training. We have the factory tools. We buy all the tools from the dealers that are required for certain jobs. So when we have to diagnose something, we're using the same computer that they are at the dealership. A lot of people don't realize that. They think that we're using just a generic scan tool or a tester, and we're using the same tool that they've got on the bench there at the dealership, but we're doing it at a lower cost. You know, we have the same training, we have less overhead, we don't have all those cars sitting in the front lot, so we can do the work cheaper with the same quality, same parts. Well, one of the reasons I got out of the dealer was because I wanted that customer interaction. Walking up to a customer, shaking their hand, and then going and working on their car meant more to me than just getting an invoice and going out to the parking lot, looking up that car number, bringing the car in, doing the work, and putting it back in the file and saying it's done. I wanted to be able to get to know that customer. I wanted that customer to know who's working on their car. The dealership does a great job interacting with customers, but the customer doesn't really talk to who's touching their car. I think it means a lot to a customer to know that they're that who they're talking to on the phone is who's actually working on the car. I have great respect for the dealerships. They do an awesome job with the way they operate. I like interacting with the customer. So so for me, you know, letting the customer come back to my tools and come back to the car and be able to point at something or show them something, or if they just want to look under the car, take a peek, they can come back and look at it. You know, obviously we're right there with them, but we like interacting with them out here in the shop and not just being a counterman, shaking their hand and taking their money kind of a thing. The service repair over the next 15, 20, 30 years, I think is going to change quite a bit. One, we've got the electric car market coming in heavily, but the technology in the cars, a good example here is, I like to say, is that back 50 years ago we had mechanics. Now we're here, we have technicians. A good difference is a mechanic wears a mechanic has greasy, dirty hands. A technician is on the computer all day diagnosing and working on a car. There's sometimes where where a car can come in, we can hook a computer up to it and fix its problems, whether it be the navigation or a runnability issue, fix it without even opening the hood, just by hooking a computer up to it and recalibrating and setting things. So I think that's more where it's going. You're going to have less wrenching on the cars, except for the basic service work. It's going to go more tech, computer direction. Where do we see the shop in 15, 20 years? I see it growing. I see it expanding. 6 years, we started out 6 years ago in a small shop. It was just Bob and I, and it blew up. We got into this building and we've maxed it out. I foresee us expanding into other locations, but I don't want the customer service to change. So that's my big fear, is just expanding too fast, and I just see us growing and hiring on more guys, and just getting our name out there. I don't think I'll ever stop wrenching on a car. I think when I retire, I'll be working in the garage, and it'll be because my wife won't let me go to work. But I don't think I'll stop wrenching on cars. I love it back here. I like being up front to greet a customer and check them in, but I don't see me sitting at a desk. I have a desk in there, and many of the guys here can attest to it. I haven't sat at it in a year and a half. So I go in there and clean off the dust and pick up some paperwork, but I use the computer here at the toolbox and in the shop.
That was a great segment, but now stay tuned for our tips, tricks, and reviews. All right, in this episode of Tips and Tricks, I'm gonna get you together with this guy, Mike Cristopherson. You might have known him from some of the other videos we've done. I am a body and paint guy, so I could teach him how to paint a car, and we'll do some stuff on that in the future. But one of the things that comes up when you're doing replacement work or service work on your car is bleeding the brakes. Or if you have to do a brake job that includes replacing the master cylinder, it's one of those things where it's really just a big giant pain in the butt to try to get the air out of that. So I grabbed Mike, a ASC certified mechanic. Aren't you gonna do your thing to the camera? Perfect, and part-time model to give you a really simple way to avoid sitting there in the driveway with your friend pumping the brakes for about 6 hours to try to get the air to move down the line as you open and close the valve at the actual brake caliper. So Mike, without further ado, take us through what we're gonna need to do this and the simple steps.
Well, obviously the master cylinder, just any master cylinder that you end up using for your car, but they come bone dry. So you're gonna need brake fluid. We've got brake fluid actually right there. 2 pieces of vacuum line work really well. It's just basic vacuum line, something that fits in tight into the master cylinder. Screwdriver to plunge the master cylinder to bleed it, and just some hose cutters.
Don't have to be fancy ones like this.
Just anything that will cut. I mean, basic scissors out of the house, but I like to use vacuum line. Most guys have extra vacuum line in their garage, so it works well. Okay. You can go fancy and make a special little hard pipe that pops in there if you're going to be doing master cylinders on your car all the time. But
okay. I would think that would not be a every weekend kind of
I don't
deal.
think so, no.
All right.
But you know, some guys that track their cars or something, maybe once a year they're replacing it, so
Okay.
might be handy. We just start by making the hose long enough to be able to go into the master cylinder and then into the fluid, into the reservoir. So we'll just start by getting the master cylinder up in a vise. I like to use a vise just because it stays nice and solid and you can do it by yourself. You don't need somebody else to help you with it.
Sure.
So put it up in the vise. I use a pan just to keep any overflow or anything from hitting the ground or the table. If you're in your garage at home, your wife might not want you getting brake fluid all over the counter.
Makes sense.
Yep. But they come bone dry, so we're just going to start by getting that lid off, making sure everything's clean in it, and then taking these and just pressing them into the threads. So
now explain to people out there that will be watching this why this is something you have to do versus just bleed the brakes the normal way where you got your buddy in the front seat pumping away and then hold, pumping away, hold as you're leaking the air or driving the air out of the caliper.
Well, you have a distance here between the valve and the exit of the master. You've got that pocket of air down in there. So you have that air there, and if you just connect the line and you fill this up with fluid, you have the master just pushing that air in and out right there, and you're not getting the air to escape the master.
You're not getting it to move down the line.
As soon as the air is in the line and the master is full of fluid in the master itself or in the
base?
In the base here, then you can pressure bleed it out or vacuum bleed it out at the wheel cylinder,
okay.
or the caliper. So
now I don't want to take, while you're doing that, I don't want to take business away from your regular, maintenance and what a shop might do this. But typically, what would something like this save the average consumer if he wanted to do it himself?
Well, brake bleeding, the car comes with replacing a master cylinder. Bench bleeding it isn't really any additional cost. It's part of the install, but you could save yourself. You could save yourself, depending on the labor to replace the master cylinder. You could save yourself upwards of $300–400
wow.
Total,
okay.
Depending on the complexity
sure.
of replacing the master. Most GM cars are really easy. GM, Ford cars are really easy. You can just replace them and in 15 minutes, and then spend the hour with your buddy to bleed the master and the wheels.
Okay.
Air is air is like cancer to brake lines. You don't have any brakes for one, but you get that moisture out of the air, which that moisture in brake lines is just rust.
Yeah.
So, which gets to your calipers. You get rust in your calipers. They break down the seals. It's just, you got to make sure you get all the air out. So.
Okay. Well, it looks like, so we get it opened up, get the lines kind of just shoved into there, into the two line. Obviously, this would normally go to like a proportioning valve or something.
Yeah, the lines go down to a proportioning valve and then onto the wheels or what. But you just have a front and a rear, and if you have more outlets here, you just more lines. Yeah. Okay. In this case, we've just got a front and a rear exit, and then they go down to proportioning and split off to the front. So, so we just do this. I like to use the rubber because it's not damaging the threads at all. You can thread your lines in after you get done with this, and don't have to do anything. Okay. So we get the lines in there, and then I like to fill this up about 3/4 of the way. I don't like to go all the way because the rubber gets down in there and you're moving that air. So to keep it from making a mess, just fill those up about 3/4 of the way. Take these over and just pop them into the fluid. Now, when you...
Oh, by the way, just so everybody knows, just so you be level with me, I'll step up onto your egg
there
cream,
you go.
so I can look down and see.
So when you use the master and you take that in and out, you're forcing the air to come out and then back in when you come out. So as I push it in here, you see the air bubbles come out.
Sure.
Now when I release it, it's actually sucking fluid down in the hoses. And I do it again, more air. And then they come out. And you like to do it slow so it allows it to all move around. As soon as the bubbles all stop, you see that you get, as the more you do it, less bubbles come out.
Sure.
So you do this until you don't get any bubbles, and it's just fluid moving back and forth in it. So now it's as if it's going down to the wheel.
Okay.
So there's a little bit more air that went right there. You know, it doesn't hurt to keep doing it and not rush through it. You know, just because, okay, I don't see any more bubbles, I'm done. Do it a couple more times. You might get another little burst of air. So, so now you can see it's just fluid that's moving back and forth. So it's all finished up. So now the master has fluid in it, and I like to try to keep these in here while I'm working with it. But with the master not being plunged at all, with these coming out, it's going to leak down on you. The little caps that you get from it when you buy it, plug those in, and put your cap on it just to keep any dust or anything out of it when you're moving into the car, anything in there. Now, just you know, put some rags down, because I think brake clean hurts paint.
Okay. But you can just, but from here, basically now you take this and you can install it to the vacuum booster, and you're already bled.
Yep.
All right,
yep. So then you connect the lines and then just go to the 4 wheels and start bleeding it out.
Awesome. Well, again, that's a great way. Thank you, Mike, by the way. Give them blue steel. Oh God, I work with this guy all the time. The beauty of it is it's a really inexpensive way for you to learn something that's new and exciting to do on your own, and even save a few $100. That's going to end this little segment of The Garage with Dennis. Thank you so much for coming by and enjoying this episode of The Garage with Dennis. We want to make sure and thank Mike and the entire crew at Protek Automotive for letting us infiltrate the shop once again. And we do want to thank our sponsors, Royal Purple, the performance oil that outperforms, and of course, Craftsman. Go to craftsman.com to become a Craftsman Club member. Now, if you want to know more about what we're doing and our social networking, go to inthegaragewithdennis.com. You can find our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. And until then, we'll see you soon.